Hello everybody, my name is Lewy and welcome back to Flickering Myth. Today we will be taking a look at Battlezone VR on the HTC Vive, the neon-drenched sci-fi tank shooter developed by Rebellion Entertainment. So Battlezone VR released on PSVR for the PlayStation 4 back in October as a launch title, and if you have a few decades of gaming under your belt you will know the original Battlezone VR debuted in arcades back in the 80s from developer Atari. But fast forward to 2016 and Rebellion Entertainment set to take advantage of the current virtual reality technology available today. After relatively positive feedback from the PlayStation community, Rebellion have looked to expand its target audience and release Battlezone for both HTC Vive and Oculus Rift. This will still mean that you'll be sat at your desk using the controller, but by no means will this be dulling your virtual reality experience. Jumping into Battlezone, and the first thing you'll notice is how insanely cool your tank cockpit looks. You will spend the whole time here. Any menus that you encounter will pop up in front of you on the closing of your tank's blast shield windows. And anything you need to know in game will be available on the multiple screens placed around you, including weapon and shield status, radar and objectives. Upon starting your first single player experience you'll be able to set the preferences of your campaign, setting difficulty, length and seed input if there's a seed your friends might want you to play, or if you want to revisit a seed that you've already played. This means that the world and levels that you play are procedurally generated. Before starting your first level you are greeted with the world board. Each hex on the board indicates a separate level. Your objective is to reach the enemy base and disable their UI, whilst completing separate levels to obtain credits and upgrades for your tank. Going into my first level, and you can't help but appreciate the simplistic, low poly but no less aesthetically pleasing level design. It's like looking through the eyes of someone currently living in the 80s, and what they perceive to think a future hover tank shooter would look like. The tall troll-like buildings, the glowing red enemies and the flat tech surface area feel somehow nostalgic, but futuristic all at the same time. Even in your tank cockpit, the thick monitors and displays really pay homage to the 80s original. I also never felt as if I was confined to a playable area. I didn't see any boundaries or encounter any invisible walls. I guess this might have something to do with the areas in which the enemies spawn, bringing you away from the edges. But I honestly couldn't tell you if the levels were 500 meters squared or 5 miles squared. Definitely a good thing. Also, a thing to point out is that I never felt sick or nauseous. Even though I'd been sliding around like a puck on an air hockey table, I could easily play for long periods of time. Whatever Rebellion did, they did right. My first objective was clear: defend my position and defeat my enemies. Enemies come in all shapes and sizes, from tanks much like your own, drones that attack from above, to stationary turrets that lock on, and mine layers that wait for you to fall into their trap. You really need to keep on your toes. The colour contrast between the enemies and the environment will help you spot them pretty easily, and the radar will let you know direction and elevation of your next foe. To attack these enemies you have a pretty generous and awesome arsenal. To start, your weapons will be pretty poor, but upgrading them and buying new ones will have you crushing your enemies in no time. Certain weapons are best suited for certain enemies. The big 120mm cannons are obviously going to be better at shooting stationary turrets than fast moving aerial enemies, so make sure you have some weapon variety in your tank. To accompany your offensive guns, you will also have a special ability. These could be from a shield boost to improve radar, so it's really important to tinker with your tank and select the loadout best suited to your playstyle. To purchase different weapons and abilities, look for the hexes marked supply points. Here you can use the credits earned from previous levels to beef up your attack. There are also cosmetic upgrades for your tank if you feel the need to spruce up both interior and exterior, so keep an eye out for those. The controls in game feel great. Smooth and responsive, the game is ridiculously easy to pick up. Exactly like a first person shooter. Left stick to move, right stick to aim. But of course being in VR you have the advantage of a wide 180-degree field of vision. Pressing A will change your weapon, and upon doing so you can't help but look up and watch your weapon transform like a transformer into the next. It really feels like you're there and you feel like a total badass when you do it. You can also press the menu button to reset the center of the screen. This is handy if you're on a swivel office chair and you've ended up spinning slightly to the left or right. You can use the right trigger for a boost, but doing this will also divert power from your shields, so use it wisely. There's a wide variety of attack and defend modes for each individual hex, from assaulting a convoy to hacking and defending terminals, and with the help from the procedurally generated levels it shouldn't feel too repetitive. Before selecting your next hex, you can opt in to send a drone at the cost of some credits to receive some information about your next level, so you know if it's a game type that you prefer or not. Dotted around your hex board you will see a number of shield generators to destroy before you're able to enter the enemy base, and to make you think about your next move there will also be a nemesis trying to essentially checkmate you. Upon selecting his tile you'll be thrown into a 1v1 boss battle. These guys are tough, so make sure you've collected a few weapons before taking them on, and upon dying you'll lose a life. 3 strikes and you're out, but the availability to purchase an extra life for 1000 credits should see you to the end. The sounds in Battlezone are awesome. Weapons feel super punchy and go hand to hand with the synthwave soundtrack. Providing the perfect amount of motivation and keeping things intense, it really gets you into the mood to blow stuff up. But like I said earlier, the female AI voice kinda puts a downer on things. I know they're trying to keep things sci-fi, but I think a human voice would have been more suited to the game. But of course, that's just preference.
AI core defenses reduced.
Battlezone VR also has some online functions, including a co-op campaign that you can play with your friends, or go head to head in team versus team. Sadly, upon searching we couldn't find any games, so we can only imagine. But if it's as solid as its single player campaign, multiplayer will be the perfect battlefield to show off your teamwork skills. Battlezone feels like positioning and teamwork will get you the win. Definitely something I'll try out in the future. A fantastic little extra for Battlezone VR is the classic mode, in which will transport you to a green and black vector world with classic tank controls, enemies and sounds. This will be a one-shot kill, so see how well you can do here and get yourselves onto those leaderboards. So Battlezone VR looks set to be a more than welcome addition to anyone's VR library, especially for those who just want to sit down and still have a great VR experience, without the need to flap your arms around, constantly step over the 3-in-1 cable, or bump into the inanimate objects that manage to creep into your play space. Battlezone is straight to the point, colourful, fast-paced, and just damn right cool. Here at Flickering Myth, we can't wait to get stuck back in upon full release of the game. Of course, thank you to Rebellion for inviting us to partake in the beta, and as always, thanks to you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Flickering Myth here on YouTube, and I'll see you all next time.